Hi, so now we're going to talk about connecting your brain to the computer, setting up some devices, and then configuring your controller. So I unfortunately don't have a brain with me right now, like a Vex brain, but I'll show you essentially what would happen. So you have your code ready, let's say, and you want to download it, or maybe you just want to start setting up your coding stuff. So all you do is connect it to your USB cable on your computer. Connect the USB on your computer to it, click brain, and then click connect. It might give you this prompt right here. And over here, you should have two options. So I find it kind of random sometimes, but if you try one of them, like try both of them, and one of them will probably work. So if it doesn't work the first time, do the same process again and try clicking on the second option. But you have two options here essentially. And yeah, you just select one of them and it'll connect. When you want to download, obviously all you're going to do is click download over here. There might be a build button as well, um, but I'm pretty sure this download button will still remain and you just need to press that. So yeah, okay. Oh, by the way, one more thing. You can actually connect your controller directly to your computer and upload code through that, assuming your controller is connected to your brain wirelessly or wired. Either way works. So rather than connecting to your brain every single time, which is on your robot, you can just connect it with your controller, and then the code will still get downloaded to your brain if they're all connected. Okay, so now setting up the devices, all you do is click this button over here, add device, and now first let's go with motors. So there are multiple ways of setting up your motors or your drivetrain, and you can choose to either set it up as a drivetrain, like Vex has its own built-in understanding of what a drivetrain is, right? So you can just select the drivetrain option itself if you want. You can use a motor group instead, so like you can group the back side or you can group the right side and the left side separately, and you control each side individually, or you can just control each individual motor as well. Ideally, you should probably use a motor group when you're making your drivetrain, but I'll explain that later. For now, we'll just pretend like you're going with a drivetrain. So if you go with drivetrain, right, let's say 4 motor, all you do is, let's say, select, I don't know, pins 1 and 2, and then 6 and 7. Now, it might need some sort of sensor depending on if you have a sensor or not. And if you don't, all you have to do is click no gyro. Essentially what it does is it identifies what position it's in. A gyroscope just identifies the position the robot is currently in. And of course you don't need it. It'll be good to have it, but you don't need it. So it's okay if you don't have it. Now here, you're just configuring which side of your robot is the front. For this, you might need to do some trial and error to figure it out, but you'll get it eventually. And then there's different wheel sizes. So according to the wheels you have, you're going to select the wheel size. Track, I'm not sure, but yeah, okay. So track is, I guess, this distance, the distance from the right side and the left side of the wheels. Then there's also the wheelbase, so the distance between the two wheels, and your gear ratio, of course. So yeah, if you geared it, then obviously you're going to put in your gear ratio. Yeah. So that's how you can configure your drivetrain. You can do either 4 motor or 2 motor, of course. It'll be the same process for both. Now, if you're doing it with the motor group, you go to motor group and you select whichever motors it is. So if you have like, if you want to group motors 8 and 9 together, wow, look, it's not that hard. Anyway, and now you can name it as like left side, or you could have it back, different options. And you have to decide whether depending on the direction you've put your motor in, like if the motor is in the forward direction, the same direction as your robot, then you can just leave it as this forward option, right? But if it's flipped, if you have your motor on the other side of the robot, if you kind of get what I mean, you'll need to use the reverse option instead. So yeah, you guys select. Yeah, sorry, you have to select over here. So I could select reverse, I could select forward. And by the way, there'll be an arrow or some indicator on your motor itself. So you can see which way is it going, which way is the front for the motor. You can do some research and you'll probably figure that out. So yeah, that's if you have a motor group. Then individual motors, very self-explanatory. You just select the motor, select the type of motor it is, and then forward or reverse, depending on what position it's in relative to the robot itself. Then there's all these other sensors as well. So for example, vision sensor. You probably won't be using AI vision, but that's an option too. Optical sensor, distance sensor, etc., etc. There's also 3-wire. This is where most of your inputs actually are, but some outputs as well. So if you go to digital out, right, that's digital out is what you use for your pneumatics. So pneumatics use this digital out thing, and it's, as you saw earlier, referred to as a 3-wire. So yeah, then there's servo motors. I don't think we have those. There's also LEDs. We might use those, limit switches, bumper switches, etc., etc. And again, they're pretty like self-explanatory. All you have to do is select the device it is and then the port it's at. Also, as I mentioned earlier, pneumatics is just here. Go to digital out, and yeah, like if you have your solenoid on port, if it's connected from port C, then you just select port C, and you you'll see later that all of the commands that you use are just going to refer to this one port rather than dealing with multiple different pneumatics, uh, different ports, I mean. Now, finally, you can also configure, well, you should configure your controller as well. And here you select how you want it to work. So this is arcade mode, I believe it's called. And that means you just use one joystick for all directions. Some people like it that way, some don't. So if you want to use the other way, you can also use tank drive. So you just click on the same button multiple times. You get different options. So again, arcade mode on the other side. You have tank drive with forward and back on this one and side here. The exact opposite of what I just said. And then controlling each side of the robot. Now, you can just click on these buttons to set them as to whatever devices you have. So right now we only have another motor group as our other device. So this is referring to the back motor group, and these are the commands for what the buttons do in reference to the motor group. And again, if you had an LED or something, you can maybe use one of these buttons or these buttons to control when it turns on and off and use it as a trigger for that. Yeah, that's pretty much all the configuration for the devices.